Sup, guys? Toad back with you. My mic shield here, or not shield, but whatever you want to call it, the mic head or whatever it is. I'm so out of it this morning, almost falling off my mic here. I'm back with you. I'm Toad. 2-0 day yesterday. I like it, man. I want to have a strong finish to the year and at least finish with a slightly winning year. That is my goal at this point after the ups and downs of this year. It has not been the best year, obviously, but right now I have a little bit of padding as I am up on the year right now, and I want to keep it that way. Being very selective yesterday, one hockey play, one NBA play, and hit them both. New Jersey Devils, they did not get a lot of shots off in that game, I'll tell you that. Not a lot of offense, but very good goaltending from Jake Allen, I think was actually in net. I thought it was going to be Markstrom, I think is their other goalie. I thought it was going to be him yesterday. I was wrong about that, but Allen was very good in net. The Oilers goaltending situation didn't do well. It was the Oilers, right? Am I out of it right now? I think it was. Yeah, their goaltending situation nowhere near as good, and the the Devils played a way more physical game than the Oilers did at the very least. So they wound up with the win 3-0, and then the NBA game got there as well with the Clippers. I haven't really looked into the details of that one yet, but I know they won and covered, so I hit them both. Text it. What's up, man? I do not bet on the election. I do not get into that degeneracy because it's way too rigged. I'm just hoping that Trump is going to win at this point. I'm going to get out and vote for him myself, even though in Massachusetts, he's not going to win Massachusetts, but I just want his numbers to get pumped up a little bit, and I got to vote on these ballot questions because some of them actually have significance. Sports are rigged. Yeah, but that's, dude, I win at sports betting. So whether it's rigged or whatever, like I'm still finding spots and it still works out for me. So rigged or not, I don't know. I'm going to be at work later though. Let me see here. Let's get into today's card, man. One thing I will mention, I can't believe I forgot to talk about the Saints game completely, which I'll probably wind up talking about them more because I'm probably going to bet on the Saints this week, but that's some upcoming information for when I do the NFL stuff. The Saints, in their game against the Panthers this weekend, I should have mentioned the game. I should have talked about it at the very least because they were in a reverse injured player theory spot with Derek Carr coming back. So that's usually a negative spot because the team has been without him for a while. They've gotten used to playing without him, although, of course, the Saints have been terrible. They've lost every game without him, but you still have to get him back into the mix. It tends to not be a great game. The team can take a little bit of a step back knowing that their star quarterback is back, but again, they have to adjust him being there, getting used to him again. I know Olave went down in that game as well, and that pretty bad defensive hit there that looks like, it did look like targeting to me, so that was a factor in that game. That was a bad situation. The Saints still should have won the game, though. I'll have to look it up. I won't try to figure out what the specifics of it were here, but there was some 250-0 NFL statistical situation that the Saints fell into in that game, and they still didn't win the game. So it was this weird outlier of a game. But with the Saints now having Derek Carr back in his second game, so they were in that reverse injured player spot. So that meant the line went way up on the Saints. Probably was a spot where the Saints were going to be a little bit discombobulated, basically. So I leaned to the Panthers in that game. Got the pick right in my pools, at least. But now with Carr having one game out of the way already under his belt, and now the Saints just fired their coach yesterday, that tends to be a motivator, man, when the team fires their coach like this in the NFL, and it's a team that really has nothing left at this point. It's going to be a divisional matchup this week for the Saints at home against the Falcons, who already beat them once. I'll talk about it more when we get to it, but I think the Saints are going to be a play this week. Whisker Twister, what's up, man? All right, let's get into today's card, man. We do have some college basketball, but again, like I said, I'm not playing college basketball yet. There was a huge slate of games yesterday. I forgot to mention Baylor-Gonzaga was another one of the high-ranked matchups yesterday, but Gonzaga just absolutely trounced Baylor up in Spokane, Washington. So still not getting involved in college basketball until we get some games out of the way here. All the teams playing today are playing their first games of the season again, so not really anything I want to try to, I'm not going to force myself to get involved in any of this, but I'll just point it out. The NBA is off today. I think the NBA intentionally takes election day off for whatever reason, yes, I do exist if you're talking about me. So we only have hockey and college football to talk about. We have Tuesday MACtion, as it is November now for college football, and we do have hockey today. So I'm going to talk about hockey briefly. I do have one play in hockey, and I'll mention a game that I was almost about to play. I was thinking about maybe playing St. Louis, man, because this is a spot I identified a while back. You might have remembered on one of my shows during this week, I said, this spot for Tampa is going to look a little bit difficult, man. And I think it is. I don't think I'm going to quite get there with playing the St. Louis side here, but I do lean to that side. Tampa, they've had a rough road trip, man, playing at Colorado, at Minnesota, at Winnipeg. Those are tough games, man. And they beat Colorado in high elevation, had to come down out of the elevation and face a Minnesota team that's been really good as well. This game was close. Tampa outshot them, but were the less physical team, which tends to be the case with Tampa pretty much in every one of their games. And Tampa, this game was really close towards the end, man. I mean, it was a 2-2 game in the middle of the third period. Tampa only down 3-2 late in the game. They gave up an empty net goal, cut it back to 1 again, and then gave up another empty net goal. So that game was a little bit closer than the final looked, and so was their most recent game against Winnipeg. And Winnipeg has the best record in hockey right now. Winnipeg has been very good so far, and this game was also closer than it looked, even though Tampa did not play Vasilevsky in this game. They gave him a rest, and they played whatever his name is, Johansson, I think, is their backup. Yeah, so they played their lesser goalie in this game. They did give up a lot of goals, but this is a 4-4 game into the third period as well. Tampa was only down by 1 goal with a few minutes left in the game. They gave up 2 empty netters in this one. So those games were both closer than they look. So on the one hand, that means Tampa played a little bit better than it seems, but on the other hand, it means Tampa was putting in a full effort in both of those games, and now they're coming out of all of that, and they're stepping down in class to face St. Louis, which could mean one of two things. It could mean that they're going to be, because they're used to playing like much better teams, they're going to, if they show up here, they're going to be able to take care of a lesser team like St. Louis here, or it could mean something else. It could mean that Tampa's just going to run out of gas here. So I don't know which is going to be the case. If Tampa had won this game against Winnipeg, I'd probably be taking St. Louis here. I still lean to St. Louis, but it's not as strong. And if Tampa had a bigger game up next than this struggling Philadelphia team, I think it would be a better spot as well. Vasilevsky is going to be back in net in this one, I assume, after being rested in the previous game for Tampa. So I'm not going to quite get there with this one, but I lean to the St. Louis side. I would play them like on the plus money line if I did it. But St. Louis is also coming off kind of a big win over Toronto. I mean, that's not nothing there. St. Louis returned home from a road trip, and they did not fall into a distracted spot there, and they still beat Toronto. And now they've had a couple of days off, but is that going to, like, give them some new momentum going forward, or are the couple of days off going to, like, hurt them because they're having to, like, deal with being back at home and whatever, and they just played a good game, and now that, like, having extra days off might halt their momentum? I'm not entirely sure. Binnington should be in net for St. Louis again in this one because they've had multiple days off, so they're better goalie. Should be in net. We should have the better goalie for both of these teams in net in this one. Tampa is up from minus 160 to minus 162. Highly public, though. 91% of the tickets, 90% of the cash right now. So, again, I'm not going to play this game, but that was the first one that I left off my card. And I know last night I got both games right, by the way. I said I leaned to the Kings yesterday as well, although I didn't expect Kemper to play for the Kings yesterday. I thought it was going to be Rittich, their other goalie, I think is his name, but Kemper did play yesterday, and I think I expected it to be Rittich. I forget, though, but LA won the game either way, so I was right on both NHL sides yesterday and won on the one that I actually played. So I lean to St. Louis, but it's not as strong as the game I'm actually playing, which is my only play today. What's up, Alan? Both. I mean, I'm putting, like, every one of my bets is $300 or to win $300. So it's not like nothing, but it's not like massively significant either. Like, I've made money doing this, but it's only like I only do it on the side. So maybe it doesn't justify the amount of work that I put into it. I don't know. Cause I feel like I put in a decent amount of work, especially doing this show. Cause before I did the show, I would just be basically doing what I'm doing here, but just doing this all in my head basically. But now I do that and to try to prepare for the show a little bit so I know what I'm going to talk about. And then I do it again on the show, basically. So I don't know. But it's like a few hours a day, basically. So maybe it's not really worth it, but I kind of enjoy it as well. And yes, it is, somewhat habit forming. Let's just put it that way. My play in the NHL is on the Pittsburgh Penguins, plus 120 on the money line. I don't know if we're going to get better than plus 120. The Islanders have moved up a little bit, from minus 128 to minus 129. 72% of the tickets on them, but 51% of the cash on the other side, on the Pittsburgh side. So it looks like a kind of a pros versus Joes split type of market here, and hopefully that doesn't shift, because I know I mentioned the market percentages on the Devils game yesterday, and those completely flipped during the day to wind up in agreement with me, even though I went against what the market read was in the morning. I just thought it was a strong situation for the Devils, and the market completely flipped on it and wound up being a type of market that I expected it to be if the professionals were agreeing with the Devils, and I think they did. So hopefully we don't see this market flip in the other direction, but I think Pittsburgh is the right side here, of course, because I'm playing them. It looks like for now they do have the cash disparity on them, fairly significantly so, and hopefully that doesn't change much throughout the day. It is a fairly significant difference here. This is a situation where Pittsburgh's starting a road trip, so I think they're in a positive spot, because whenever you start a road trip, that tends to be a positive spot because you want to get off on the right foot on the road trip. They do have a big game against Carolina up next. So when you're 5-7 and you're not playing that well, I think Pittsburgh's going to show up in this game anyway. Just try to get the road trip off right. Nedeljkovic is probably going to be in net for Pittsburgh, and I believe he is their best goalie. I think he might have been hurt to start the season because they were rotating between Jarry and Blomqvist, and then Nedeljkovic came back, and he did lose a couple of games. So these are kind of tough road games. So I don't know if we can take that much away from that. And then they had a couple of easier games recently and won them both with him in net. So they're 2-3 with him in net, basically, or 2-1, I guess, with him in net. So take from that what you will, but I do think he is their better goalie. Although Blomqvist, or Blomqvist, however you want to pronounce it, hasn't actually been that bad either. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But Pittsburgh, Nedeljkovic is probably going to be in net here with a couple days off. I think the fact that Pittsburgh broke their loss streak. I mean, look at Pittsburgh's schedule so far. The Pittsburgh's played a lot of games on the road. They've played a lot of tough opponents. So even though their record is bad, maybe they're not as bad as their record would indicate, because they have faced a lot of difficult opponents in here. So not a very easy schedule. And then their schedule kind of eased up a little bit in the last couple of games, and they won both games against Anaheim and Montreal at home. Yes, definitely games that they should win, but they did. So I think that's maybe going to help propel them forward, because those are wins that kind of are like wins that are going to start some winning momentum for you. Like, you beat some lesser teams, get some confidence back there, but then you're not overconfident, because the teams that you beat are teams that you should have beaten. You did, and now you can kind of carry that confidence with you out on the road. So I do think it is like a momentum spot and a focus spot for Pittsburgh here. So I like that. And meanwhile, on the other side, I think the Islanders are in not the most focused of spots, let's say, is they're returning home from a road trip. Not a long road trip, though, only 3 games, and it took them to Columbus, Buffalo, and then the New York Rangers. A huge game there, which is why I'm fading the Islanders in this one. The Islanders have only had 1 day off here. I think the fact that it's a road trip return, it's still going to be a little bit of a distracted spot. Not as much as it would be if it was a long road trip, but as I always talk about, when teams return home from road trips, they tend to be in a distracted spot, because you have to get back to home life, family life, and that you have to balance that with having to play a hockey game or, basketball game or whatever the sport may be. So not the easiest spot, although not the longest road trip for them either. So I weigh it as kind of like a semi-distracted spot in a spot like this. But one of the reasons for doing this is not only the fact that it's a return home, but they just played the New York Rangers, man, and that is a huge game. The Islanders lost the game. The Rangers are still one of the best teams in hockey, and this game was closer than it looked. So, again, on the one hand, that could mean that maybe the Islanders are better than they looked in that game, but on the other hand, it means the Islanders put in a full effort in this game, and they're only losing by 1 goal going into the third period, and then they were down 2 for a lot of the third period, but they were still trying to play this game. Then they wound up giving up an empty net late, so still a tough game where the Islanders played pretty tough. They're returning home from that. And now they play a Pittsburgh team that's below 500. And up next, you wouldn't think they would be looking ahead to Ottawa, but Ottawa's above 500, man. So maybe this would be a spot where they would actually overlook Pittsburgh and maybe actually focus more on this Ottawa game that's upcoming, because Ottawa's been playing better than Pittsburgh has. I don't know, but I do think it's a hangover spot out of that Rangers game. It's a return home spot, and as far as the goalies are concerned, I actually think they already had announced that it's going to be Sorokin again. I would have to go look. I don't think it matters which one it's going to be, but he's only had one day off, and it looks like they are going with Sorokin again. As they've been using kind of a mix of him and Varlamov here. I don't think one of them is that much better than the other, really, so I don't think it matters that much. But I think when I looked at the starting goalies, I think they had actually already announced that it was Sorokin, but I could be wrong about that. Sometimes I am, but in this handicap, I don't think it matters. That's the play there. It is the Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 120, or obviously whatever the best money line is you can get on that. Yeah, it is early. Corey, I'm always doing this show early in the morning, and then I go to work. I'm going to vote and then go to work. Let me see here. And then college football, MACtion is starting, man. As I mentioned, the MAC Tuesday games are starting. I thought they started earlier in the season, but maybe they don't. Maybe it is like a November thing. So the Conference USA Tuesday games, the Sun Belt, I don't know if Sun Belt was playing on Tuesday or not, but the Conference USA games are over, and now we're looking at MAC. We have two MAC games here, and they're both kind of mismatches on the surface, but there's one side that I like more than anything else in these, and it's against the market read. It is in this Bowling Green Central Michigan game, and I'm not actually going to play it, but Bowling Green Central Michigan, Bowling Green is up from 10 to 13.5 on the road. 78% of the cash coming into them. It looks like it's probably teetering on 14, so I actually lean to the Central Michigan side here, and if you do like that side, you might be able to get 14 on it. But Bowling Green does have the cash right now, and the line is moving up on them. 52% of tickets on the other side on Central Michigan. Total, however, is down from 53 to 47.5, with 80% of tickets and 77% of the cash on the over. So it looks like market indicators indicating this may not be a very high-scoring game. And yes, a lot of it is because Central Michigan's offense is terrible, but I think this is a bad spot for Bowling Green, dude. So Bowling Green, just to talk about this briefly, Bowling Green is more of a passing attack. So they have a decent passing attack for a MAC team at the very least. They're one of the better teams in the MAC, and they've played a very difficult schedule as well. They had to play Penn State and Texas A&M in there, and Old Dominion's not that easy to face either, although Old Dominion had not rounded into form yet at that point. But Bowling Green, not a bad team in the MAC. They throw the ball well. They don't run the ball very well. And on defense, I'm trying to remember because I forget what their defensive strength is. I think their defensive strength is actually against the pass. But then on the other side, Central Michigan can't throw the ball at all, and they have massive quarterback injuries. So Central Michigan is basically all rushing. But Bowling Green, I think, is actually weaker at defending the run than the pass. So Central Michigan actually, their offensive strength, if you want to call it that, is actually matched up against Bowling Green's defensive vulnerability. So maybe that will actually help Central Michigan actually maybe do something on offense here. Although Bowling Green should probably be able to throw the ball a bit on a not very good Central Michigan defense. But Bowling Green, I don't like the spot they're in, dude. They just beat Toledo by 15, and this game was a little bit misleading. Toledo actually outgained them by 20 yards, but Toledo had 2 turnovers in the game. So this game was not actually, like statistically, it was not a multi-score win for Bowling Green, even though that's what it was on the scoreboard. And this game was close going into the fourth quarter, too. A 5-point game. But Toledo had some turnovers that hurt them in the game. But it's a big win for Bowling Green. I mean, that's against a Toledo team. It's been one of the best MAC teams for a while. And who do they have up after this? This is a second straight road game as well, going to Central Michigan. And then up after this, they have to face Western Michigan, who is atop the MAC right now, 4-0 in the MAC. That's a big game for Bowling Green, dude, sitting with 1 loss here. So it's possible Bowling Green overlooks this Central Michigan team that's sitting near the bottom of the conference. So it's kind of a sandwich spot for Bowling Green. Both of these teams haven't played in over a week, by the way, because the MACtion Tuesday is starting. So both of these teams, all the teams playing today, I think, had Saturday off because they're not going to play Saturday and then have to play on Tuesday. Bowling Green, Basilak is their quarterback, by the way. He's their best offensive player. just to throw that out there. And in both of these games today, by the way, it's going to be raining at the very least. It looks like it's going to be 50s and 60s and raining in Michigan and in Indiana at Ball State, where the other game is today. So throwing all that out there, all of that being said, because it's a sandwich spot, that has me leaning to the Central Michigan side and taking the points there. But do I want to buck what I see in the market here? I don't know. And maybe some of the reason for this significant a move is the fact that Central Michigan, as I mentioned, is down to their third starting quarterback here, or third quarterback here, third string quarterback, I guess is what I want to say here, is they started with Labas, if that's how you pronounce his name. Then Emmanuel Jr. was in the mix as well. They're both hurt, I think, and Jefferson is their guy right now. He is not as good a quarterback as Labas, obviously, although Jefferson, I think, can do more with his feet than these other guys, but I think he is also a freshman, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he is. So Tyler Jefferson is their QB. Really probably not going to get much through the air from this Central Michigan team, but Central Michigan is also coming off kind of an embarrassing loss, man. Even though Miami, Ohio is one of the best teams in the MAC, or one of the better teams at the very least, they got drilled 46-7. When you lose by that score to anybody, I think you're going to focus in your next game, and you're going to want to bounce back from it. And you have one of the better MAC teams in Bowling Green coming into your house. I expect focus out of Central Michigan. And hey, you're hosting an ESPN2 game, man, on Tuesday night MACtion. So that's kind of a big deal for these smaller MAC teams here. So my lead is to taking the points with Central Michigan in that one. And then the other game I have less of a read on, but that's just because I think it's a sandwich spot for Bowling Green. The market is indicating totally against it for now, though, but maybe we'll see it shift throughout the day. Second game, the last game I'm talking about on the show here, is Miami, Ohio at Ball State, another double-digit road favorite, with the line moving up on them. Miami, Ohio's up from 10.5 to 12 with 76% of tickets on them. 62% of the cash on the other side on Ball State, though. So the cash disparity in this one looks like it's on Ball State. I'm not going to play this game at all. It's a very tough read. The total's down from 50.5 to 47.5. 71% of tickets, 77% of the cash, both on the over, even though the line has come down. So it looks like maybe after the line came down, some betting has come in on the over, on the lower number there. I don't know. I don't know what I think about the total here either. Miami, Ohio, I mean, they've faced a somewhat difficult schedule as well, facing Northwestern, Cincinnati, and Notre Dame. I mean, those are all step-up games for a MAC team like that. They lost all of them. They didn't play that poorly, really, in any of them. And they have a loss to Toledo in conference. Toledo's one of the better teams as well. So Miami, Ohio, when they got to this Eastern Michigan game, I played Miami, Ohio in that game because Eastern Michigan had a winning record and Miami, Ohio had this really ugly one-win record. And I said Miami, Ohio is way better than they look right now. And they've won the game easily against Eastern Michigan. This Miami, Ohio team has now risen up, and they're in the second spot in the MAC right now. Miami, Ohio also has Blaine Gabbert's brother as quarterback. He was injured at the end of the season last year, a pretty severe leg injury, actually, and he came back, and he has been pretty good. Like I said, I think he may be the best quarterback in the MAC, so you're going to get passing out of Miami, Ohio at the very least. Ball State, not a very good team on offense or defense, really, so Miami, Ohio should be able to get some stuff done through the air. Brett Gabbert is his name right there. So Miami, Ohio should be able to get it done, but they are coming off a big blowout win, although it was against Central Michigan, who, as I mentioned, is not one of the better teams in the MAC. So I don't really think this is that much of a letdown spot or anything like that. But maybe they're not going to have total focus on Ball State, but they don't have a huge game up next either. Kent State has been a really bad MAC team as well this year, so not really anything upcoming. It's not a sandwich spot or anything like that. They're going out on the road to face Ball State, and like I said, it is going to be kind of a rainy game, just like the other game, which the rain might have factored into why the totals have dropped in both games. It may be because of the rain. And in the other game, maybe it's also because of the Central Michigan quarterback situation. But this game, I don't see like much of a situation as far as the scheduling is concerned to really want to fade Miami, Ohio here. I mean, they're not really in a spot where, I mean, maybe they'll just feel a little bit too high on themselves after a blowout win. Maybe that's like really all you can say. Ball State, I mean, they've faced a couple of teams that are step-up teams here, Miami and James Madison, and they got drilled by both of those teams. They play competitively against Western Michigan, who's a really good MAC team this year, so that doesn't look that bad. And then they Played Vandy decently. That was a game where I took Ball State, though, because Vandy was in a bad sandwich spot there. That was a bad spot for Vandy, and Ball State played them fairly competitively in that one. Now Ball State, they're coming off a nice win over Northern Illinois. I know Northern Illinois has dropped, although I know Northern Illinois has dropped to 1-3 in conference. That's still a Northern Illinois team that beat Notre Dame, man. So that Northern Illinois team is not that terrible. I mean, you can't possibly be that bad and have beaten Notre Dame, but they are looking like bottom half of the MAC type of team, really, even though I thought they were probably going to be one of the top half in the MAC, but maybe they're not. But still, Ball State beat them. Pretty big win for Ball State. Ball State was a big underdog, too, so maybe Northern Illinois is actually one of the top MAC teams. They've just faced a difficult schedule. I don't know, but Ball State pulled off a big double-digit upset, so this is not a spot where I want to play Ball State off of a big upset like that. And Ball State, I mean, it looks like they were, they didn't pull off the upset. They almost did. It was a very close game. Ball State was looking like they were going to do it, and they were winning in the fourth quarter. They were winning with 15 seconds left when they gave up or what am I talking about? Ball State did pull off the upset. I am just totally out of this. Yeah, I see it now. I was looking at this graph thinking that, Northern Illinois 100%, but the last part of the graph was Ball State. I am so out of it right now, man. Yeah, Ball State pulled off the upset here. That's a big upset for Ball State, dude. Double-digit upset, and they did it right near the end after this back and forth fourth quarter near the end there. So it's not really a situation where I want to be on Ball State coming off a big win like that. So I actually think the market cash discrepancies are actually not the way that I would look in either of these games necessarily, really. But I'm not going to touch Ball State in a spot like that. So basically that's all I have to say about these games. And they do have Buffalo and then Bowling Green up after this. I mean, Ball State's not going to overlook Miami, Ohio, though, because Miami, Ohio is one of the top teams in the MAC as well. It's just a matter of, is Ball State just going to run out of steam? Because you're asking them to put up like these huge efforts in 2 straight games. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And as far as Ball State's offense is concerned, I don't know if they're really equipped to match what Miami, Ohio can do on offense with Samanza at quarterback there. I mean, he's been there the whole year, but he's a mediocre quarterback. But I think Ball State throws the ball more than they run it. But I don't know if that matters that much against Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio has been a decent MAC defense overall. But I think that's it. That's all I got for these games, man. So hopefully some decent information there, even though I'm out of my mind this morning. What's up, Nate? Thanks for hanging out as usual. My only play today, one more time, just to recap, is the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL, plus 120. Try to be selective, trying to get some more wins here. Let's go 1-0, baby. It's going to do it for me. I'm Tower Gang Toad. Follow the Tower Gang podcast, of course. Patreon.com/Tower Gang, and you get pre-show, post-show. You can watch those live. You get to hang out in the Telegram with us, submit to the mailbag. So bonus content, bonus Telegram community there. And you can find us tomorrow night. We'll be on again Wednesday nights, man. Tower Gang Wednesday, motherfucker. 9:11 p.m. Eastern. So go check all the Tower Gang stuff out. That's going to do it for me, man. I'm Tower Gang Toad. Have a good one, everyone. Peace out, and let's go Trump. Hopefully we get the Trump win here, man. I'm not going to be happy tonight otherwise. And to me, I'm not betting on anything, but I think that there are a ton of shenanigans going on in Michigan. Again, Michigan is an extremely corrupt state on the Democratic side of things, and I think Michigan's going to go for Harris, and the thing is going to come down to Pennsylvania. Both candidates were campaigning in Pennsylvania yesterday. Is going to come down to Pennsylvania. Whichever candidate wins Pennsylvania is going to win the election, and it's probably a close enough margin that there's going to be some rigging going on again, and Trump is probably going to lose. So it's going to very much suck, and we're not even going to know for days probably again. Yeah, fuck Michigan and Colorado. Colorado is massively blue. I mean, Colorado basically has already been called for Harris. But yeah, whatever. It's going to suck. Hopefully I'm not right about that, but we will see. That's going to do it, man. Peace out.